I'm Thad Brown along with Carl Jones. This is Let's Talk Ball, the weekly recap of the Bills game from the X and O, the film point of view. This is about the Bills and the Jets. Buffalo, the 20-12 win. Kind of an ugly game to start. Really an ugly game for 60 minutes for a lot of different reasons. Let's start with the Bills offense. You know, obviously up against a really tough opponent in the Jets. I think the number one place to start, and this has kind of been the theme, you know, with the Bills bringing Cole Beasley in this week, is trying to get more production out of the receiving group. Now, for the most part, we've been saying, hey, Stephon Diggs, fantastic, no problem there. The other guys you got to worry about. This week against the Jets, it was really the whole receiver group that was a problem. Stephon Diggs was invisible. You know, just made one big play, and really that was kind of a schemed up shot where they were able to isolate him on a safety in a spot where the safety really had nowhere to go. I mean, Diggs is going to win that battle, you know, 10 times out of 10. Beyond that, though, more reps against Sauce than in the first game, and Sauce won a lot of them. Not all of them, but won a lot of them, and just really wasn't a factor for 60 minutes. Then beyond that, you know, I think the complaint was, and the same thing that we've been complaining about for the last few weeks, the consistency. You know, you get a good Davis play. He had a really nice, we talked about before, 20-yard comeback route on the sideline. That was like textbook, high-level NFL stuff. And I thought Davis, for the most part, probably was the best of the group, but McKenzie had a couple drops. Dawson Knox got taken away by a safety I've never heard of. You know, Devin Singletary with some drops. Everybody had drops. Gabe, you know, trouble with drops. I thought the receiver group as a whole, you know, you talk about why did the Bills not score 80 points in this game? It was the receiver group to me. They just did not make anywhere near enough plays.
Execution, flat out, point blank period. I know that a lot of times it's easy depending on the offensive coordinator and the play calling, but a lot of times it just comes down to guys doing their 1/11th, which Sean McDermott likes to allude to a lot, and just doing their job. But when you look back on third down, they were 2 for 13 on third down this year, by far their worst of the season.
Game, you mean?
Of this game, excuse me. By far the worst of the season. And a lot of those plays, and third down is usually the coordinator's down, right? The job where the offensive coordinator is going to put guys in the best position, just win.
It's the money down.
It's the money down,
exactly,
right? You spend literally one day at practice just on that down, right? And the Bills, some of it maybe, you know, Dorsey maybe could have had a better play call, but majority of these plays, you got a couple sacks in here, some misses, some PBUs where, like you said, Knox getting covered by a safety you never heard of. That's not on Dorsey. That's on the guys out there just not executing to the job that they need to be executing. And that was concerning. I know the Jets defense is top 2 in the league, maybe not 2. They might be 1.
Right.
Having said that, though, some of that stuff didn't have anything to do with the Jets. You dropping a pass on 3rd and 16, Isaiah McKenzie on the second drive of the game, doesn't have anything to do about Sauce Gardner or Quentin Williams. Or what about when tough block for Dawson Knox to make, but on the little QB sweep where Josh Allen wants to roll out on a third down.
I know it's one that's where number 50 kind of shot right inside of Knox.
That's tough.
Right, and again, that guy was a practice squad player. The Jets called him up that week, and Knox whiffed on it. Knox basically is out on the outside, and he kind of shoots inside of Knox. And yeah, it's not an easy block, but get a piece of the guy.
It's not an easy block, but all week in practice, you make that block.
Yeah.
They don't call that play if they don't think you can do that block, right? So I understand, and don't get it twisted, Dorsey wasn't perfect by any means. He had some plays and some schemes where I'm like, I don't know if I really agree with it, but man, the guys got out there just got to do their job.
I agree, and I thought Dorsey had a really underrated game. First of all, the Bills struggled a lot early. Right after the Knox trick play on 4th down, they went a lot of empty. You know, I don't know if that was intentional, it was 2-minute drill offense, whatever, but it worked, and the Bills stayed with it. I thought that was a big reason why they got their second touchdown drive. They were effective out of empty. You know, they realized the Jets were going to back off in that set, and the Bills were able to take some easy money, you know, hitches and stuff underneath where 8 yards, 9 yards, move down the field, and then later on the drive, the Knox touchdown's a little deeper play. But I like the fact that Dorsey recognized that was working and stayed with it. I think his biggest strength this year has been the realization that I have this Ferrari offense. You know, when I find something that works, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just turn the key on and hit the ignition and you're fine, you know. And I think he did that in this game. And then the other thing I liked about Dorsey, on the field watching the game, late in the game, it seemed like the Bills didn't know how they were going to run the 4-minute offense, how they were going to kill the game. You know, they tried running it, then they were throwing it early, then they were running it again. Go back to what you just talked about. A lot of those plays were there. You know, they were plays that were good calls that the players just didn't execute, whether it was a missed block or a drop or whatever. So I thought Dorsey had a pretty solid game in this one.
I agree hard. Like, I know people were frustrated with how he threw a pass on first down on that.
Yeah,
the last.
The pass was there.
The pass was there.
Yeah.
Josh rolled out and
Tough throw.
Tough throw.
He rolled to his left, thrown on the run.
But you expect the guy you pay $50 million to make a play right there. So I mean, I understand, some of the backlash, and obviously the offensive coordinators and play callers are always going to be, the topic of Twitter and social media.
Yes.
But having said that, looking back at it a second time, it's like, all right, guys, let's dial it back a little bit.
Beyond that, two other things I want to bring up. I thought the offensive line, rough first half. Again, the Jets D-line will do that to you. But I really thought they stabilized in the second half. And yes, no Quinnen Williams made a big difference. However, there are more good players in that Jets defensive line other than Williams. So I give the O-line credit. I thought Spencer Brown had a pretty decent game. Now, look, some of this is like relative to what they normally do. But all in all, I thought the offensive line in the second half played a much better game. Josh Allen, he missed some throws early in this game. I mean, there was one on the sideline. He missed by like 8 feet, where like the Jets guy who was fourth deep from the sideline had the best throw at it. Later on in the game, made some good throws. I will say the McKenzie throw in the first half that you talked about as a drop, that was a really sick throw because it's like 3rd and 15 or 17, and McKenzie's planted at like 10 yards, but wide open, and Josh kind of leads him down the sideline to where if he makes a catch he should make, it's a first down. So there were some good throws, but the misses Josh had in this game, and weather was an issue early, but these were bad misses.
That was so alarming to see. I know that full participant in practice and all that stuff.
Elbow thing, yeah, that's true. The injury's probably still a factor.
And I'm not going to absolve anyone of that, because don't get it twisted. Everyone's hurt out there, so I'm not going to put too much on that. But it was a little alarming to see, like, dude, you throwing it to Gabe Davis or you throwing it to my hot dog vendor in the front row? Like, that was kind of odd, but something about those quarterbacks who like to scramble, they get hit a couple times and they come back down to earth, and now they're locked in. Once Josh made that heroic play on third down where he's diving forward, helicopter, and he got hit, all right, now let's go play ball, right? So that was kind of how that game went. Josh came back down to earth a little bit, and he was cooking after that.
It's a great call. I mean, it'd be nice if Josh could do that without having to go airborne over a professional football player. But yeah, he was pretty much, fine after that play. Anything else you got on offense in this game or no?
Just talking about the addition of Cole Beasley. A lot of times this year, and we've talked about it here, Stephon Diggs has spent a lot of his time in the slot, and a lot of that time you'll see him just run those quick little option routes where he reads the leverage of the defender. That used to be Cole Beasley's job. And by doing so, you bring Cole Beasley back. Whatever he has left in the tank, that remains to be seen.
Right. If he can, let's assume in this discussion that he'll be some decent level of ability.
Because when we saw him this past September, it was kind of a little bit concerning. But having said that, let's go on the premise that he does have something left in the tank. You put him back in that role where he can be that quick outlet for Josh, right? Because we've been complaining about where are the easy access throws for Josh, right? Well, that's been Beasley the past 3 seasons. They needed to use Diggs for that on those quick little option routes. So now you allow Diggs to move not all the way outside all the time, but just allow him to do
more so,
right? And not use him solely for that type of catch right there. Doing so, it puts guys in their roles, in the perspective roles that they need to be in. And also for a guy like Gabe Davis, right? He wasn't running none of those option routes. You never asked Gabe Davis to run those option routes. Having said that, if you're a defensive coordinator and you get tired of getting cut 1,000 times, death by 1,000 cuts.
With Beasley and Diggs.
With Beasley and Diggs, all the underneath stuff, you might creep your safeties up a little bit, and that's where Gabe Davis should beat you over the top and get those long touchdowns passes.
That's where Beasley could be effective and why we've been talking about the lack of him all year long. All right, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. I think the number one story coming out of this was the D-line. No Von Miller. The D-linemen still come up with 4 sacks. I think the big topic was, hey, look, Shaq Lawson, A.J. Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, you got all these defensive ends getting sacks. I was not very impressed with the defensive ends in this game. I really thought, and you and I talked about this, and you're right, Daquan Jones was really good. Ed Oliver wasn't great for him, but still pretty good for most guys. The guys on the edge, Rousseau. Now, look, I want to get into a conversation with Rousseau later, but they had the numbers. I thought the eye test was passed by the guys on the inside, which to me is a little concerning because, the reason the Bills went out and spent $51 million on Von Miller is because they didn't have any production from the edge. And this is kind of fool's gold in this game that, yeah, there were sacks, but I don't know how repeatable this is.
The 2 sacks where Gregory Rousseau got, one, Ed Oliver shot the gap and got upfield, forced Mike White to feel a little pressure.
Basically, like when I chart, I don't give a pressure out if it's a play where the quarterback runs to the defensive lineman. So the way I grade it, Greg Rousseau had a sack without getting a pressure because White basically ran into him is what happened.
Yeah, and then later in the game, Shaq Lawson got a sack, but once again, Mike White's out of the pocket where I'm like, dude, throw the ball away.
Right. That's on the quarterback. He's got to know.
Like, bro, you're not Josh Allen, bro.
Right.
Throw that ball to the sideline. But it was encouraging to see the interior at least do their job because, boy, DaQuan Jones, home run signee by Brandon Beane in the offseason because, he's brought.
You can say hired, by the way. That's fine. He was hired to do a job,
and he's done a great job.
Yeah, he has.
But whether it was taking on double teams, getting up the field, forcing guys to cut back. I think I saw a stretch play where Zonovan Knight had the edge. DaQuan Jones said, cut it back up, buddy, and let him right to Tremaine Edmonds. So that was very encouraging to see. And also the defensive front seven in general, I thought 8 quarterback hits this game, which is a number that's not really talked about a lot because I understand we want to, protect the quarterbacks and all that good stuff.
Yes.
I understand that. I get that. Having said that, when you're in a defensive meeting room, that is like, if there's like 3 things you chart up there, that might be like second every single week because you want to get pause on the quarterback for a litany of reasons. One, it speeds up the clock. I don't care who you are. You're going to see ghosts out there and speed up that clock and that type of stuff. And also, I don't care. I'm not trying to sit in the barrel and throw the ball time after time if I know I'm going to get hit. And I know Mike Milano lit him up one time. Ed Oliver lit him up a couple
Mike White doesn't seem to care, but most guys do.
Right. Now, granted, Mike White, he was still lining up in there. Sometimes you need to check what he's made of because he's something different, clearly. But most quarterbacks are going to flinch in that situation more times than not.
Yeah, Matt Milano showing off why he's one of the best blitzers in the NFL for my money. On the back end, Dane Jackson took a lot of garbage again for this game, and he's been taking the last few weeks, a lot of it deserved. In this game, I don't think he was quite as bad as he was made out to be. And I think, and you and I talked about this, and we kind of both landed on the spot that it wasn't so much that Dane Jackson was good. I think Trey White was a little worse than we kind of felt. And by comparison, Jackson doesn't feel as bad because the guy on the other side that everybody loves really didn't have a good game either. You made a good point about what stood out for Jackson, why there wasn't so much the coverage for you, but a different negative that made his day a minus day.
Yeah, because the thing I've liked about, all the DBs, and a couple of them really didn't have a good day tackling, but in particular Dane, if you're not going to make the play in terms of PBUs or getting the ball like on the ground in terms of, completions, get the guy down on a tackle. And a couple plays where he didn't get down Garrett Wilson on a slant route, and I think Denzel Mims on the sideline as well. That's what's concerning to me because tackling at its essence is just confidence, right? Because you made it to that level. Everyone can tackle. Most people can tackle.
Yeah.
Dane Jackson can tackle, though. And that was a little bit concerning to me. And granted, you are right. I thought social media, and I love my precious corners. I'm going to defend my corners, right? And I thought they were a little harsh on Dane looking back on it. But the tackling I did think was an issue because, okay, the coverage is not there. But, buddy, you got to get these guys down to the ground. And I thought that was where I was a little worried a little bit.
The coverage in general was lacking, especially early. The first Jets drive of the game, where they started on the 1, Elijah Moore had 2 or 3 touchdowns on the one drive. I mean, the Bills, people are saying nice things about Mike White and the job he's done so far. Watching this game, there were 5 or 6 plays where I'm like, wow, this is wide open and White doesn't throw. If this is Pat Mahomes with all the same stuff, the Bills secondary would have got flayed in the first half. It would have been 14 or 21-0. So a concern there. I want to get to Trey White in a minute, but let's talk to Damar Hamlin for a second. I thought this was by far his worst game. We've discussed in this spot before. He's kind of an all-or-nothing tackler. He's going to run up, bat out of hell and take a knees out, and a lot of times it works. In this game, he missed 3 or 4 doing that. And then when it comes to coverage, it's hard to pin blame on a safety the way the Bills do it because a lot of times they're back in his zone. You don't know whose responsibility is what. But, a lot of those Elijah Moore openings that the Jets did not take advantage of, I thought were him. And I really was not impressed with the way he covered or where he was supposed to be. It seemed like there was a lot of space, a lot of guys open where he was on the field in this game.
For a guy like that, the Bills aren't expecting him to do above and beyond, right? They're not expecting him to be all-pro or Micah Hyde. But can you at least do your 111th, do your job, get guys down to the ground, be in the right position, do the stuff that the playbook literally asks of you. And if you can't do that, then that's where the issues lies. Like you said, the all-or-nothing tackling, they're all out of nothing. Zonovan Knight on the touchdown run. DeMar, we got to get him down to the ground.
Now, to be fair, Zonovan Knight broke a Matt Milano tackle. So you're breaking Matt Milano tackles, that makes you have superhuman powers.
Where did they find Zonovan Knight?
Exactly.
Because this dude runs hard, and I don't want to tackle him myself, okay?
Yeah.
But, once again, you're paid to go out there and make the play, and you got to find a way to get him down to the ground, right? But, yeah, that was concerning to see. And obviously he came back, nice forced fumble at the end, punching the ball out. That was encouraging to see.
Yeah, big play to kind of save his game for sure.
But we need consistency throughout the game because it's getting to crunch time right now, and you'll fall in a quick hole, like you said, against guys like Patrick Mahomes.
Let's talk about Trey White. I think continuing to improve. I think every game is just a little bit better than the one before. The way you broke it down, though, I think was the best way to describe it. Like he's able to stay with guys, but there are some mistakes that you can tell is a corner, and you who play the position at a high level, you can understand when he's not really believing in how rehabbed he is.
Let me start with the positive with Trey White. I was encouraged that he played 100% of his snaps, so he's clearly on the trajectory of getting more healthy. And I also was encouraged that they allowed him to follow Garrett Wilson for majority of the game.
Yeah, he did play him a lot. Yes, he did.
So I was encouraged that A, the Bills taxed him with that assignment to do so, and B, that he went with it. Now, having said that, there were a couple certain DB things that I wasn't all too enthused with, and a specific one where it comes to driving back down the routes, where as a DB, if you're backpedaling, and there's a thing called double braking where you don't brake and get out on the first step. It's the 1, 2, then get out. And that's a guy who's just, I've been there before, who is not as confident as what he's seeing, what he's feeling, and that's where you get the turns from a PBU to a 15-yard completion. It turns from a pick to a guy who's catching it right in front of you. And the little separation like that where these quarterbacks are so good at the NFL level, these receivers are so darn good that you need every little second to make up for that. And that's where we don't know if we're going to get that the rest of December and into the playoffs. But that was so obvious, apparent, time after time. And I get it. Garrett Wilson is a stud. He's going to be a great player in this league for a long time to come. But I noticed that on several routes with Trey White.
It's going to take him a while to get back. I mean, we've been saying this all year long. Even Leslie Frazier said it with media this week that usually takes a year plus the next one before you're all the way back. And it's going to be a while with Trey. I wonder if the snow and the weather probably played a factor as well. So anything else on defense you got?
No, they just better be ready because got the Dolphins coming in town. I understand everyone think they didn't found the book on the Dolphins, but Mike McDaniel gets paid handsomely too. I'm sure he'll figure out things.
One other thing I want to add too, did watch the punt block. A.J. Klein just brought in, totally blew the block. That was on, appeared, I actually shouldn't say I know that. When it comes to punt blocking and group blocking like that, you don't want to always isolate a guy. To me, it looked like A.J. Klein just got shoved out of the way and allowed that punt block to happen. We don't talk much special teams on here.
But the Bills haven't really given us a reason to talk to it. So
yeah, that's true. And we talk about this every once in a while on Buffalo Kickoff Live. The special teams have been so good, that's why they don't get mentioned a lot. All right, thanks for watching. Like I said, we do this every single week. We'll be back next week, probably on Wednesday again. Christmas week. I think we'll do this Wednesday again. But we do this every single week, talk X's and O's. It's a whole lot of fun. Carl's got a Division I football background that makes him smart. I watch a lot of football. That makes me someone who watches a lot of football. For Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Please click on something else here at RochesterFirst.com.